Air Canada's first Airbus A321XLR is now under construction at the manufacturer's Hamburg-Finkenwerder site in Germany. Of course, by the time you're watching this, the jet may have already been fully assembled and painted. Nonetheless, Simple Flying was granted an exclusive first peek of the new aircraft on the production line at the Hamburg facility, including a look inside the all-important XLR distinguishing feature, its rear central tank. In addition, Alexandre Lefebvre, Air Canada's VP of Network Planning and Scheduling, took some time to explain his carrier's plans for the new aircraft type in more detail. Let's find out what those plans are for today's video. The Airbus A321XLR we took a look at in Hamburg is the first of 30 of the type the Canadian flag carrier hopes to take delivery of over the next 3 years. When Simple Flying managing editor Tom Boone took a visit in mid-April, it was still a long way off from being ready, though as you can see in the photos, the components are clearly taking the shape of an aircraft. At the time of our special visit, the rear fuselage section was being kitted out. This involves installing everything from windows to overwing doors, air conditioning pipes and electrical wiring. Each individual step is undertaken at one of 8 stations, starting with adding the aircraft's insulation. Once the equipment installation is completed, the aircraft will proceed toward the final assembly line. On the final assembly line, the rear fuselage will be connected to the front fuselage and wings and start to look more like an airplane. Following these steps, the aircraft is expected to be delivered early next year. As every step is completed, Air Canada is growing more confident of the first XLR's delivery date. That's what the airline's VP of Network Planning and Scheduling, Alexandre Lefebvre, told us. Lefebvre was quoted as saying, "We're working very, very closely with Airbus. As you get closer to the date, you get more certainty. But it's coming. It's getting even more real. When you see the aircraft getting on the assembly line, that's when you know it's getting there." Timeline uncertainty has been a huge topic over the past few years, with delivery delays seemingly a common challenge across the industry as supply chain issues persist. As time goes on, however, Airbus gets a better idea of when precisely it'll be able to deliver aircraft to customers. Presenting Air Canada's Airbus A321XLR ahead of our floor visit, Lefebvre gave more insight into what gains the XLR will bring to Air Canada's fleet and operations. As noted earlier, the airline currently has 30 firm orders for the XLR, with the first 5 of these aircraft being leased from Air Lease Corporation, or ALC. According to Lefebvre, the XLR will have a roughly 30% decrease in fuel burn compared to the airline's existing A321ceos. This will translate to a 12% better RASM, or revenue per available seat mile. Lefebvre added, "I think it's important to say we believe in the product. We see the same values that Airbus is stating in terms of how we can deploy that aircraft." But what makes an Airbus A321XLR an Airbus A321XLR? Again, as we hinted at the introduction, a few differences are primarily driven by the addition of the RCT, or rear center tank. This single component is designed to hold 13,000 litres of fuel just behind the wheel well and takes the place of what would otherwise be space for cargo on a base A321. Simple Flying was invited to take a peek inside this tank. 13,000 litres isn't as large as we would have imagined. The tank's access hole was tiny, but it boasted the most incredible echo we've ever encountered, which we unfortunately didn't record for you to include in this video. The aircraft fuselage is actually a part of the rear center fuel tank, meaning that some systems that would typically pass through this area are rerouted through the aircraft's fairings. This gives it a very slightly different look to standard A321s. Indeed, if you look very closely at a standard Airbus A321neo, you will see that the underwing fairings stop short of the emergency exit behind the wing. In order to reroute certain systems around the tank in the XLR, this fairing actually extends under the same emergency exit. You can see the difference when you look closely at this Aegean Airlines A321neo and an Iberia A321XLR. Fascinating, right? The 30 Airbus A321XLRs expected by Air Canada are currently due to be delivered between 2026 and 2028. They'll make up about a third of the 91 aircraft the Canadian flag carrier is expecting to take delivery of by 2030, excluding 2 Boeing 767s and regional aircraft. The remaining 66% of aircraft deliveries consist of the following: 1 more Boeing 787-9, 18 787-10s, 11 737 MAX 8s, and 31 A220-300s. At least at the time of video production, the configuration of Air Canada's A321XLRs has yet to be disclosed. Of course, given their long-range abilities and very high probability of flying medium and long-haul services, we're quite confident that we'll see lie-flat seating in business class. The bigger question will be what these seats will look like. Will they be like Aer Lingus, which staggers between 2-2 and 1-1, or will they be more like Iberia's layout, which sees a more inward-facing 1-1 setup? We also have to wonder if the airline will jump on the broader industry trend of adding privacy doors, as seen on JetBlue Mint suites and American's A321XLR flagship business. When it comes to economy class, it will certainly be difficult to do anything fancy while also maximizing passenger capacity. We would hope that the carrier adds newer technology, such as Bluetooth connectivity, but we'll really just have to wait and see. In case you missed our main channel video about Air Canada's plans for this new Airbus narrowbody, we had noted that the first A321XLR will spend up to a third of a year being put through its paces incognito. This means that the type will be quietly slipped into regular services. Of course, when passengers see the different seat plan, they'll probably realise that they're on an XLR. Lefebvre told us that the airline is looking at a 3 to 4 month training and certification period, and that the aircraft will be flying on revenue flights but just not sold as an XLR. The Airbus A321XLR serves Air Canada in 2 ways. First, it will allow the airline to operate long routes with less demand but a higher load factor. Second, it will enable the airline to boost frequencies on shorter routes where it currently fills a wide body. Air Canada's initial priority will be right-sizing existing routes where a wide body is unsuitable. None of this is all too surprising, as these are probably common strategies for most full-service A321XLR customers. Specific to Air Canada, however, Lefebvre revealed that Ottawa-London will be one of the first routes for the jet. At present, the carrier uses the Boeing 787-8 between these 2 cities. So, what are your thoughts on Air Canada ordering the A321XLR? Do let us know by leaving a comment.
Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.